Pruning cherries here real quick. Make sure you always wear your safety glasses. That's real important. I like to wear gloves. I don't like to cut myself, but real important you wear safety glasses. That's our #1 injury we have out here this time of year, followed by ladder accidents. So real important that you stay safe. This is a 2-liter cherry tree. It's a dwarfing rootstock. These are on a Gisela 12. There are some of these on a Gisela 6 also. One of the characteristics of Gisela, they're very precocious. They really like the fruit. Just look at the amount of fruit on that. All of those fruit buds all the way down that limb right there. If you were to set every cherry on that branch right there, it would just fall down because sap doesn't flow down. Sap only flows up. Anytime you have a pendant branch or a weak branch that falls down, it's going to end up being small cherries. One thing we can't have is small cherries. We need to have big cherries. These cherries are a black pearl. Beautiful cherry, but they have a tendency to want to be small anyway. So as we prune this, we're going to bear that in mind. We're going to prune everything to make sure that we have good stiff branches that don't fall down, and we want to make sure that it also, as we're going along here, we're going to be doing a lot of thinning cuts. So basically our pruners are going to touch just almost every single limb on this tree. Whenever I'm pruning cherries, I have some basic rules that are common on any cherry tree that I would ever prune. First rule for a cherry tree is remove the strong suckers. The second rule on a cherry tree is anything that's on a main branch growing back inside the tree, we remove. So strong suckers, anything headed back inside. Third rule would be anything either growing down or falling down. So branches that are growing down or pendant branches, we're going to do lifting cuts or shortening cuts to stiffen those branches up or to bring them back up, so that we keep that branch stiff and we end up with big cherries. The fourth rule that we're going to have on these trees right here is we're going to touch every limb basically, so that we're going to thin the fruit in half. If we didn't thin the fruit on these trees, they would be so loaded with cherries. There would absolutely be way too many, and they'd be about the size of your pinky finger. So we have to prune aggressively in here and shorten almost every single limb so that we end up having a chance of having big cherries. So I always like to get right inside the tree and start with anything headed back inside the tree. I like to remove those. That gets sunlight inside of the tree. Our spray gets up inside of the tree. So I always work myself right up the back side of the tree, taking off anything headed back toward the inside of the tree. That's a very good starting point. That could be anywhere on the branch. If it's headed back toward the inside, all the way up these scaffolds, we're going to remove those. Rule number 2, strong suckers. Anytime we got the strong suckers like these, we're going to go ahead and remove those right out of the gate. A sucker, by the way, is a 1-year-old limb. It's a brand new limb, 1-year-old limb. So we're going to remove those strong 1-year-old limbs that we refer to as suckers. What's our third rule? Our third rule is anything that's headed down or it's pendant. So I'm looking at some of this stuff that's headed down. I'm going to cut those off the bottom of the limbs and get everything headed back up so that sap's flowing up and we have good strong limbs. A fifth rule that I'm going to add is crossover limbs. So if there's a limb laying on top of another limb, we're going to sort those out and take some of those out of there so that we don't have shading. This is a great example of a limb laying over a limb, laying over another limb. So we're going to sort that. We're going to thin that out, lift that back up so that we make sure and get some sunlight inside of here. Those are headed down. I'm going to get rid of those. Okay, so I went through here and I've done my basic rule. Anything headed down, big suckers, anything headed back inside of the tree, pendant stuff. Now I'm going to start doing stiffening cuts. Basically, I'm going to half every limb on this tree. If I have a sucker, I'm going to half it. I'm going to go along here and I'm going to half every one of them. That's going to do 2 things for me. When I half that limb, I'm stiffening it up so it'll stay upright and the cherries won't fall down and end up being small cherries. But you can see where I cut that limb last year. I did the half. It'll give you big wads of fruit where you do that cut right there. It'll be a source of a lot of fruit right there. So we're going to work our way down. We're going to half all of those limbs. That's headed down, we get rid of it. That's headed inside. That's headed down. That's headed inside. That's headed inside. So half in all of these. So basically your pruners are going to touch every limb on this tree. Headed down. I'm going to half that. Those are headed down. Going to lift that back up. halving all of these all the way up the tree. I'm going to put my pruners on almost every single limb here. You know how stiff those branches are now? They're not going to fall down. They're all sturdied up. Anything headed back inside, we're going to take off. You can use those rules on any limb. Here, I'm going to get the one headed inside. That's headed down, right? And then I'm going to half these. That's headed down. I'm going to half that. And basically that limb there, this side of the tree now is pruned. That's exactly what we're looking for. We've got good stiff branches. We've halved all of those suckers and all of those limbs. And we've cleaned up the inside of the tree. I'll just go ahead and do this side real quick. Headed inside. Just check your rules on everything you're cutting. And if it breaks one of those rules, it should be eliminated. Halving that limb. Look at all the fruit on there. I'm going to take half of that fruit off of there. That's a thinning cut. I'm going to take half. Look at all that fruit. I'm going to take half of it off of there. I'm going to take half of that fruit off of there. Stiffening those up. Almost finished with this tree. Pretty simple. That's headed down. That's headed down. That's headed back inside. Stiffen those up. Thin that fruit off. This is headed down. I'm going to lift it back up and stiffen that back up. I'm going to half that. That limb's broke. I'm going to get up in there and take that out of there. That's broke off. Almost finished here. I'm going to stiffen that and that. And half those. That is broke. Let's get that out. And that's it. That tree's finished. I can prune that tree in about 5 minutes. Real simple. Now you can look and see all these limbs are halved. We've made these good thinning cuts on here. That's going to keep that limb stiff and upright. And you're going to be able to hang all those cherries off of there. So that's basically it. Cherry tree.